Good morning. Welcome to UNESCO's T4P Regional Dialogue. Together for Peace, or T4P, is a regional initiative to strengthen and better integrate peace into UNESCO's work in the Asia-Pacific region, in education, but also across all of our other programs. Today's program will provide thoughts from some of our key partners and eminent persons on the issues we are facing to build positive peace through education. I would like to introduce Mr. Shigeru Aoyagi. Mr. Aoyagi is the Director of the Regional Bureau for Education in Bangkok. He started his career with UNESCO in 2002 as Chief of the Literacy and Non-Formal Education section in Paris. In this capacity, he worked for the Education for All program and developed UNESCO's flagship program on literacy for life empowerment. Mr. Aoyagi was previously Director and Representative in Kabul and New Delhi, and he's been with us here in Bangkok since May 2018.
Your Excellencies, National Commissions, education partners and friends, it is my great pleasure to extend my warm welcome and appreciation for your firm commitment to work together to build and sustain positive peace in our region and beyond. In particular, our sincere gratitude should go to the Minister of Education of Thailand and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Japan for their long-term and strong support. First of all, today, we must pay our respect to the victims of violence in Myanmar, including the tragic loss of children. Please join us in a minute of silence to honor the lives lost. The long-term mission to build peace in the region is reinforced by events around us every day. As violence has been worsened in Myanmar, UN Secretary General Guterres has expressed the international consensus calling for an end to the violence and accountability for those responsible for serious rights violations. Save the Children, UNESCO and UNICEF have issued a joint statement on the rights of all children and youth to education enshrined in international obligations and called on security forces to exercise maximum restraint. High-level call for peaceful solutions have to be founded upon meaningful advocacy and engagement with civil society. The nature of conflicts is changing, requiring renewed efforts to build the defenses of peace between and within countries for our own communities and within our own minds. We stand at a critical moment in history, not just because of the pandemic that is affecting education and every area of our lives. The world around us is transforming from rapid technological advancement and the expanding digital sphere, environmental change and the climate crisis, to the amazing potential of the new form of communication, solidarity, and mutual support that we see here. As UNESCO has developed the T4P initiative with partners over the past year, clear themes and foundations of positive peace have emerged. Education is at the heart of these efforts for truly inclusive and equitable societies that leave no one behind and enable not just survival, but human flourishing. The vicious cycle of violence can only be broken by the virtuous spiral of peace. This understanding of positive peace, expressed by the prominent Norwegian sociologist Johan Gultan, addresses the dimensions of power with cultural peace flowing to structural peace and direct peace, enabling an environment of reconciliation and justice for all. Over the last decades, gaps and disparities in wealth, health, information, and knowledge between people and countries have been becoming increasingly wider. These are the divisions that lead to conflict and must be balanced by fairer and more equitable distribution based on the will of the people and empathy and compassion for others that could be generated through learning and education on positive peace. For the many here who have made education a lifelong vocation, we know that we must innovate and embrace transformation in pedagogies and curricula in our commitment to SDG 4. This is a more expansive view, including sustainable development and global citizenship built into education from conception to implementation and practice. This pandemic has driven home to us that strengthening education and addressing learning loss require new whole school and whole of society approaches. Academic achievement needs to be integrated with social and emotional learning in both formal and non-formal setting for the well-being of learners and teachers, schools, and communities. In many ways, environmental change and climate crisis create the context for those efforts. The unlimited economic expansion and natural extraction practices in the past increasingly affects the lives of people in the present day and will do so for future generations. At the international, country, and local levels, and in our own behaviors, humanity needs to be relearn how to live with and as part of nature, rather than in exploitative relationships with a dead end in sight. Across the Asia and the Pacific, our phenomenal diversity of peoples, cultures, and communities is a source of enduring strength if we choose to build upon and celebrate both our differences and shared humanity. At the same time, our differences can give rise to conflicts based on misunderstanding, ignorance, fear, and prejudice. At the global level and regional level, we are confronting these forces by fostering cultural exchange and understanding, supporting critical thinking and the media and information literacy, as well as countering narratives of racism, bigotry, and other forms of hatred. When we better understand ourselves and learn about each other, our shared values and interests form the common ground that we need to build upon. Dear participants, the challenges to sustainable positive peace in the region are significant, and the urgency is immediate. The dialogue today comes from our shared commitment to positive peace and sustainable development in our region, moving forward towards inclusivity and solidarity of people and societies. This is our future, and we can choose to begin building it today. Lastly, I thank you again for your participation and look forward to your insights, contributions, and strong support moving forward on our shared mandate. I welcome you all to the T4P Regional Dialogue.
Our next speaker is coming to us from UNESCO headquarters in Paris. This is Mr. Xing Chu, who is the UNESCO's Deputy Director General. Mr. Chu holds a PhD in political science from the Paris Institute of Political Studies, and he served as Assistant President of CFAU, where he was responsible for the organisation of teaching at this university. He's held a number of senior posts with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of China, including Deputy Chief of Mission at the Chinese Embassy in France, where he was responsible for bilateral affairs and administration of the internal functioning of the embassy.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, national commissions, partners, and colleagues, it is a great pleasure for me to address you today for the opening of the Together for Peace Regional Dialogue in Asia and the Pacific. On behalf of UNESCO, I welcome you all. Peace brings us together today, even as COVID-19 drives us apart. The pandemic is affecting every area of our lives, weakening the foundations of peaceful societies. In this chaos, we see echoes of other tragedies, and among them, the Second World War. It was in response to this war that UNESCO was created, to build peace in the minds of women and men through education, the sciences, culture, and communication. But what is peace exactly? Our vision of this concept shapes how we deliver on our mission. Peace is more than just the absence of war. It is what we can achieve when we embrace humankind in all of its diversity. As such, peace revolves around the concept of tolerance. According to the UNESCO Declaration of Principles on Tolerance, adopted in 1995, tolerance is respect, acceptance, and the appreciation of the rich diversity of our world's cultures. In short, tolerance is harmony in difference. This harmony can only be achieved by ensuring justice, equity, and equality for all, by addressing social and economic disparities, by ending the conflicts and violence associated with exploitation and inequality. This type of peace is what we call positive peace, and it is the topic of today's discussions. Positive peace is more than just a goal to be achieved. It is, above all, a process. In the words of Félix Houphouët-Boigny, the president of Côte d'Ivoire, peace is not a word, it is a behavior. That is why, at UNESCO, peace education has been central to our efforts since the 1970s. Peace education teaches individuals to prevent the conflict and wars by promoting mutual understanding, solidarity, and of course, tolerance. These principles are embedded in our initiatives on preventing violent extremism, global citizenship education, and intercultural dialogue, as well as our commitment to gender equality. However, our efforts do not stop with education. Peace is also closely connected with humanity's relationship with nature, freedom of expression, the combat against racism and xenophobia, and the celebration of diversity through culture. Today, the SDGs also link our work for positive peace to our commitment to sustainable development. This regional dialogue is another milestone in this process. Bringing together member states, civil society, and young people, it seeks to identify the key issues for positive peace in the Asia-Pacific region. In doing so, it aims to show how UNESCO's expertise and resources can be harnessed to effect change on the ground. The challenges are considerable, yet we have the knowledge, understanding, and commitment to make this future a reality. I would like to thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan, the Ministry of Education of Thailand, and the Asia-Pacific Broadcasting Union for their support. I look forward to hearing your ideas as we develop T4P into a new flagship for the Asia-Pacific region. I thank you for your attention.
And today we're very privileged to have with us as our moderator for this session, Ms. Aiko Doden. Ms. Doden is a senior producer at NHK World. NHK, for those of you that don't know it, is a leading public broadcaster based in Japan.
Next to speak is Her Excellency Kunning Kelaya Sophonpanit, Deputy Education Minister of Thailand. Kunning Kelaya is a former Minister of Science and Technology. She graduated with a PhD in high energy nuclear physics from Imperial College London. She was one of the founders of the National Electronics and Computer Technology Centre.
Madame Audrey Azoulay, Director General of UNESCO, Mr. Shigeru Aoyaki, Director, UNESCO Bangkok, Excellency Kazuya Nishida, Ambassador of Japan to the Kingdom of Thailand, Mr. Kailash Satyarthi, Nobel Peace Prize laureate and founder of the Kailash Satyarthi Children's Foundation, Your Excellencies, distinguished speakers and participants, on behalf of the Ministry of Education of Thailand, it is my honor and pleasure to welcome you all to this regional dialogue on the role of the education in building peaceful and sustainable future in Asia and the Pacific. Please allow me to congratulate UNESCO for organizing this timely conference and to add to my appreciation for the financial support of UNESCO Japan Fund in Trust. I fully support your approach to develop social and emotional learning and ethics at school so that kids can recognize that their and other emotions, learn to manage them, express their feelings, their wishes, and negotiate without resort to violence. I agree that behavior of kids will change. They will discover ways to interact with each other without creating conflicts and learn win-win solutions. They will also know how to protect themselves against bullying and discrimination. Our kids are growing up in an internet world which is becoming as important as their physical world. They also need to learn internet courtesy and how to protect themselves from bullies in the internet. In our internet world, our kids need to learn how to verify facts and misinformation. Furthermore, they will need to protect themselves from attempts to manipulate their thinking and decision making. We live in an increasingly sophisticated world where we are becoming an open book to the internet and where we can be influenced by the news and media feed to us without our knowledge. Perhaps this issue could be considered in your discussion. Finally, I wish to every success in finding ways to raise kids who can resolve conflict amicably, discover richer alternatives than fighting and refrain from war when they grow up. I am sure that every Ministry of Education in the region, including mine, will look forward to receiving your outcome report so that we can raise our kids to become more fully competent citizens of the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Kuning Kalaya spoke of the significance of social and emotional learning at schools, but she also spoke about the need for children to protect themselves from violence or bullying, and also to be able to discern the difference from facts, discern the differences between the fact and the false news, in which children can try and become a proactive player in building peace themselves. Next to speak is His Excellency Kazuya Nishida, Ambassador of Japan to the Kingdom of Thailand. Prior to his current post, Ambassador Nishida served as the Director General of International Cooperation Bureau. During his over 37 years of experience in the Japanese Foreign Ministry, Ambassador Nishida served in diverse capacities as a counselor in the Embassy of Japan in Washington, D.C., and Ambassador to Iraq.
Her Excellency Queen Ganlaya Soponpanip, His Excellency Lempo Jaibilai, Mr. Kailash Satyarthi, Mr. Shinchi, Mr. Aoyagi Shigeru, distinguished guests, good morning from Bangkok. First of all, on behalf of the Government of Japan, I'd like to congratulate all of you on Together for Peace, regional dialogue. It is a great pleasure for me to make a welcome remarks for this important event. In the past 3 years, Japan has been supporting UNESCO T4P initiative, which aims to build a strong platform on building positive peace through education and regional dialogue on peace and a sustainable future in Asia and the Pacific. I have a strong conviction that the strength of Asia is its diversity. It is a driver of growth and the source of its attraction. At the same time, ethnic and religious difference, social inequality, and history should not be a cause of tension and unrest, which leads to instability in the region. Education has a key role here. I stayed in Baghdad as ambassador to Iraq from 2013 to 2015, during the time when Islamic State was at its peak. I witnessed with my own eyes the horror of violent extremism, both physically and virtually. From this experience, I can assure you that education, dialogue, and public information are critical tools for seeking positive peace. Japan joined UNESCO in 1951. In fact, UNESCO was the first international organization that Japan joined after the World War II. And this accession was a critical milestone for Japan in our return to the international community. After 70 years, the spread of the coronavirus is posing a threat to the lives, livelihoods, and the dignity of people across the globe. With the principle of nobody left behind in our minds, Japan is willing to deepen our cooperation with international partners, including UNESCO, to achieve peace and stability around the globe. In closing, I do hope all participants in this event will have a fruitful dialogue for peace in Asia and the Pacific region. Thank you very much.
Ambassador Nashida speaking to us. He spoke of the need for building positive peace in the region and also shared with us his own personal experience of having served in Iraq, having experienced the horror of violence, and how Japan, in cooperation with UNESCO, is committed to attaining the goal of achieving peace and stability in the region. And now we have Mr. Kailash Satyarthi, 2014 Nobel Peace Prize laureate and founder of the Kailash Satyarthi Children's Foundation. He is an internationally acclaimed child rights activist, advocating children's rights for 4 decades. His interventions are spread across over 140 countries in an effort to protect children from slavery, trafficking, forced labor, sexual abuse, and violence.
My dear brother Ayogi, dear friends from UNESCO Bangkok and the government of Japan, sisters and brothers, I congratulate you for this great initiative to make efforts in attaining peace through education. And that is possible only when we are together. Let me begin with a Ved mantra. This is one of the most ancient texts of knowledge and wisdom. It says, Dev Shanti Antariksha Gum Shanti Prithvi Shanti Rapa Shanti Roshadayah Shantihi Vanaspatayah Shantir Vishve Deva Shanti Brahma, Shanti Sarvagum Shanti, Shanti Reva, Shanti Sama, Shanti Redhi. This very clearly speaks the totality and togetherness for peace. We cannot attain peace in isolation, in solos, or in fragmentation. And therefore, we have to find the linkages between all the key factors which can bring peace. As we know that peace is not just the absence of war or violence. Peace is a balance where the people can feel justice. People are educated. People can care for society and environment, and that is sustainability. And therefore, there is a need of creating a wheel which can lead the humanity, and that has 4 propellers. They are interconnected with each other, but they are helping each other. Education, justice, sustainability, and peace. One cannot be achieved without the other. Think of a situation that if hundreds of millions of children are denied their education, they could easily be misused and manipulated in violence and crimes and exploitation and miseries and injustices. Therefore, these things have to go hand in hand. We have to ensure that every child is able to get good quality free education, and the world has to work hard with a sense of urgency to protect our children. This year is very important, not because of the post-pandemic challenges, but also an opportunity which has come from the announcement of the United Nations, as this year is International Year for Elimination of Child Labor. We cannot achieve our education goal without eradication of child labor. We cannot get justice. We cannot create a society which is based on sustainability and peace. And therefore, we have to demand fair share for the most marginalized children of the world and their families. We have launched a campaign in association with all key stakeholders, including UNESCO, and that is Fair Share to End Child Labor. We are calling a fair share in budgetary allocations and finances, fair share in policies and their implementation, and fair share in social protection measures. I refuse to accept that the world is so poor that cannot achieve education for all. I don't think that the world is so ignorant and apathetic that it cannot bring about peace in the society. Because if we have to make the humanity sustainable, then we have to work for peace. And that is possible when we work together. We will work hand in hands. Thank you so much.
That was Mr. Kailash Satyarthi sharing with us his very powerful message on education, saying that the world cannot continue to say education for all is not possible, and that attaining peace through education is only possible when we are together. And I think that is precisely why we are all here today for this event. Now I'd like to invite our keynote speaker, His Excellency Lyompo Jai Bir Rai, Minister for Education of the Kingdom of Bhutan. Most recently, he was the Chief Finance Officer in the Ministry of Agriculture and Forest, and Head of Finance at the Royal University of Bhutan. The minister has great reverence for writers and is an avid reader himself. Some of his passions include helping communities, volunteering for social causes, collection of books, magazines, gardening, landscape painting, to just name a few. The minister will be speaking on education, happiness, and peace.
Good morning. Honorable Director, UNESCO Bangkok. Honorable Director, UNESCO Delhi Office. Panelists, moderators, experts, and ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I would like to thank UNESCO Bangkok for opportunity to deliver this keynote address on the role of education in building peaceful and sustainable future in Asia and Asia Pacific. I am humbled to be given this wonderful opportunity, and I truly thank Mr. Seguro Ayogi for your kind gesture towards me. I feel blessed to have met you in Japan in 2019, and I'm so happy to see you here again today. Please accept my heartfelt greetings. I would also like to welcome all other dignitaries in today's meeting, and I extend to you the warm greetings of my king, my government, and the people of Bhutan. If all of us agree, can I propose a few seconds of silence just to be with the people around the world who are suffering the present pandemic and pray for them. Thank you. Thank you for your spending this precious time. The theme for today's regional dialogue is education, happiness, and peace. I am deeply moved that UNESCO Bangkok has made a very great effort to initiate the regional dialogue on building peaceful education for sustainable and happy future. We are all aware that in this globalized and interconnected world, what happens in one country or what is the action of even one man has direct and immediate impact in the larger world. I believe the sustainability of all of us as a human race is a learning to live together and seeking unity in diversity. Pondering upon the theme, education, happiness, and peace, I believe we need to relook at ourselves, our thoughts, our mindsets, dreams, and imagination for the future of our humanity. I would like to share a recent incident of Bhutan, which I am hopeful can give us a clear picture of how we can contribute to education, happiness, and peace. Let me recount the incident. When the whole world was hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, we had a clear instruction from His Majesty the King about the acceptance of the committed funds and aids from international funding agencies. His Majesty's concern, as we shared to us, was that we may have asked the funds for the development purposes, but the countries and the people donating those funds are suffering, and some of them more than us. Thus, his advice to us was to be mindful and extremely careful about the funds. These seemingly small gestures, I feel, has been the fiber that has been Bhutan's action towards sustainability and peaceful coexistence with the world. That we have been extremely mindful of all our thoughts and actions in all aspects of our lives so that we can contribute towards peace, sustainability, and an education that enhances these values, skills, and knowledge. As I speak, I ask all of us here, what will give us lasting peace and happiness? I'm sure we may have different views, but I'm also sure that one resounding answer would be education. Then, what is that education which will take us towards these goals? Education for what? Thus is a very important question that might help us address the complexity and intricacy of 21st century. I'm sure today's discussion will try to answer some of these questions, and I hope to end the day with lots of wisdom gathered from today's panel. Global peace and happiness are much more important, and we need to ensure that our visions for education aligns with global visions, missions, objectives, and goals for a peaceful and sustainable future. Looking at the history, Asia and Asia Pacific has greatly contributed to the global development characterized by its diversity in all aspects: landscape, society, culture, religion, ethnicity, and many more. However, the region equally faces challenges in terms of governance, quality of life, and inequality. Therefore, we need to align the future of education to address these challenges, for we clearly know that the root of happiness is education. Well, I will leave the what and the why of education to the expert panelists here. I would like to briefly touch on the how aspects of reaching the common goal of sustainable and happy future. I believe in today's globalized world, we need a global vision based on collective agreement, mutual respect, and responsible leadership to building a peaceful and sustainable future. I believe this can be harnessed through global shared leadership so that we as humanity can make collective progress. The Asia and the Asia Pacific have a huge potential to making this endeavor a successful one and hereby enhance the quality of lives of the people around the world. I would also like to propose the 3Cs that can help us achieve this goal: collaboration, communication, and coordination. This is a mantra which has been helping us achieve our present 5-year developmental plan. And I do really think this is so important if we are to achieve a collective vision. If only we can communicate more openly and honestly, if we can better our international coordination through mutual respect, sharing, and empathy, if we can better collaborate among stakeholders within as well as outside our own country, I strongly believe we can achieve any goals. We as a human race have proved time and again our resilience and strength. I know we can, with our collective efforts, comfortably achieve them. Let me sum up my point. with the following line of John F. Kennedy. I quote, "Our problems are man-made. Therefore, they can be solved by man. And man can be as big as he wants. No problem of human destiny is beyond human beings." I unquote. I would like all of us here to please ponder and reflect on the wise words of Kennedy. Last but not the least, I would also like to reiterate that aspiration for global peace, prosperity, and happiness are directly dependent on the quality of decisions, the intentions of directions, and the dynamism of the present leaders, educators, and the education system we design now and hereafter. Once again, thank you, UNESCO Bangkok, for bringing all of us on board. May your efforts of building peaceful education promote the greater well-being and happiness of all people in this world. Tashidile, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. There was already so many takeaways in your speech, starting from the fact that there's unity in diversity, and education can offer values, skills, and knowledge. Education for what, why, and how, which you have articulated, and that the root of happiness is in education. I think there should be many questions from the floor, but before we do that, let me address you one question. Bhutan is known for introducing the concept of gross national happiness. How has Bhutan integrated the concept of gross national happiness into the school curriculum?
Thank you, Akiko. Let me answer this question with a question. Why was there a need for us to develop gross national happiness infused curriculum? And the answer is that the country was in need of citizens who are able to be mindful of the present as well as anticipate future social problems. We were searching for that perfect alchemy, and for Bhutan, we found that in gross national happiness. So as the ex-Minister of Education, Mr. Paudel, said, our image of gross national happiness inspired person was that of, I quote, monk reading his holy scriptures while his food was being cooked by the laser beams. I unquote. We were bold enough to embrace the two polarities and try it out. Therefore, all our educational plans and policies are screened through the GNS framework, which translates into the various curriculum activities of our schools. Our textbooks aspire towards GNS values. Our teaching and learning pedagogies are guided by GNS philosophies and strategies. We take a whole approach and holistic learning methods from nutrition in the school mess to assessment in the exam halls. We focus on child as well as environment in which the child lives. The self is equally important as the society. We believe learning happens everywhere, not just within the classroom, and it is lifelong. Knowledge, skills, and attitude, the three domains of learning, are given careful consideration depending on the need of the country's economic and development plans, as well as contribution towards global citizenry. Locally rooted, globally competent is the education theme, and we aspire to achieve these goals. How I answer your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There are a few more questions. One is, you spoke, articulated on the how part of achieving peace through education. Now, what do you think are the fundamental competencies required to achieve happiness, and how can these be taught?
There is no as straight answer to that, but then what I feel absolutely is the leadership. The leadership is the most core competencies that's required to achieve happiness, and then to attain gross national happiness. That's what I feel.
Okay. As you said, the peace is not something that just happens. That was the point made by our speakers as well today. We have to work proactively to achieve it and secure it. Has the implementation of gross national happiness in Bhutan over the years led to more positive peace, do you think?
Thank you. Our earlier speakers already spoke that peace doesn't mean the absence of conflict, but it's how one has to manage it. So basically, if you really look at, yes, I could see that as compared to the past, as we imbibe these GNH education values in the education system, I would see that the earlier conflicts, of minds, conflict of thoughts, conflict of ideas, and approach differently and solve differently and more amicably. So these itself clearly shows that the GNS values us indeed thinking and approaches to the system. Therefore, I would clearly say that definitely, as compared to the past, this has brought positive impact and peace in the country. And the reasons being, the fundamental reasons being, number one is education, number two, the leadership, number three is mainly the understanding and the quality of thoughts and the broader thoughts of our people developed through education. Thank you.
Mr. Minister, I think your close friend, Mr. Yogi from UNESCO Bangkok has a word to say.
Honorable Minister Rai, thank you so much for your very strong message on the peace, education, and happiness. I recall we are together in Japan in Shimane Prefecture, and then the walk on the street, small street in the village, and felt and found some kind of answer to the more peaceful and sustainable society. I clearly remember your words over there again, and thank you so much. I have one very simple question, which is related to the Ms. Aiko Dodem raised. That is in your kind of the career as education minister and also the leader of Bhutan, what is the core message of the education to promote gross national happiness in your country? I think that in many countries, they're suffering from the kind of the very rapid transformation of the society. And as you mentioned, rightly mentioned, the complexity of the 21st century. And facing this kind of the very fast, rapid change, what should be the core message of education to be the global citizen, as well as how the kids, young people can contribute to build peaceful and sustainable society in the future? So if you could mention a few strong kind of messages in education to be built in towards the purpose. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ayogi. Thank you so much. What we are promoting is a self-leadership. Whatever we do it, education must promote self-leadership. From where, or in other words, before we go for the national and international governance, fundamentally what I see is the self-governance, and then the family governance, and the community governance, and the school, we also call it school governance, and then national governance. And if we learn these things, if we imbibe a sense of self-governance, in other words, self-leadership, I think our children, our future that we are looking forward, that future that we want to give to our children hereafter, down the line, 20, 30, 50 years, 100 years down the line, is fundamentally today what we are missing is the self-governance and self-leadership. So basically, our gross national happiness is also looking not only the external happiness, the fundamental to begin with, everything begins with self. So self-governance, self-leadership, self-respect, and then maintaining one's self-esteem is very, very, very important. And these are the little things that we will be teaching, we are teaching to our children. And these will have a greater impact later on. Our leaders, our future leaders would be fundamentally locally rooted and globally competent. That's what we are looking for. And then hope one day our global leaders will take these into the forefront and then create the humanity that we are looking forward today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. If I could ask a follow-up question to your response. You spoke about the need for self-governance, self-respect and self-esteem on the part of the children. I think that is a very strong message, because if such attitude spreads, we will be one step closer to achieving peace. But in education, how do you instill those values? How do you teach those values within the education system?
Thank you. I would just narrate a simple example. We also call it place-based learning. We also, that what we are teaching to our children is, our pre-primary children, of course, we take them to a water source, and then we make them respect this water source, so that, and also teach them how to value the water source, so that people living in all the catchment area will be benefited. This is the simplest thing that we can teach to our children. In a larger scale, for example, our messages keep on reiterating that, yes, the bigger nation will have a bigger problem. Bigger nation have to feed millions and billions of people, so they may not be able to really compromise. They might have to compromise at times the environmental issues. But then a small country like us must contribute and support by preserving our environment and keep it pristine, so that our country remains carbon neutral or negative. So that will mitigate some of the problems and issues other countries are facing globally. In other words, act locally and think globally. These are the little things that we are trying to teach our children, so that one day when they become a global citizen, they will also take these little values and make a great impact in the world to preserve our humanity. Our forefathers have preserved us, preserved our world and earth, and given us this, and we must preserve our earth and give it more with lots of values added on, and give it to our future generations. So that's how we are teaching in our country.
Your comment about taking children to the water source was very enlightening, because it does say so much about your previous point about the education being a holistic approach. Let me go on to another question from the viewers. One is about, is there any role of religion or religious belief in building peace and taught in education?
Absolutely. Thank you. I don't know whether call it religion or spirituality, but definitely, I would say that if we have to preserve, for example, in our society, we teach our children how to maintain, for example, again, go back to water source, how to maintain that water source as pure and clean. There's also, if you really look at GNS values imbibed in it, our cultures, traditions, and belief, preservation of our cultures, traditions, and belief, we say that please don't go and make dirty the water source, because the deities or some angels might get angry. So that also shows that, in other words, we are telling psychologically our leader or our children not to disturb the water source. At the end of the day, we are living by drinking the water. So if we just today we go and disturb and destroy the source, tomorrow the water wouldn't be there and all of us will be suffering. In other words, there will be either nature or nurture. So basically, again, as I said in my keynote address, it will, again, we will be creating our own problems by our own problems by ignorance. So that's why our education, I wouldn't say the religion or anything else, but we do practice the spirituality, mindfulness in education.
And would I be right in saying that spirituality or the religion is not something that excludes or isolate one group of people, but actually bring people together?
Yes.
I think someone, yes, just one more. If you have any messages for young people in the region, because we are going through a difficult time with extremism on the rise or living through the pandemic.
My simple word that I want to share with the young leaders is that we are trying our best to preserve, maintain, and even today's meeting itself shows our commitment and assurance that we would like to give you a peaceful world hereafter, even hereafter. So therefore, every individual leader or every individual student or every youth that we have today, and Asia and Asia Pacific itself has almost 60% of the population, or almost 4.4 or 5 billion people are residing within these regions. What I would like to say is, you must lead positively, be mindful. I know there will be lots of negativity and lots of sufferings one might be passing through. Lots of psychosocial issues might be psychosocial issues through which you are passing, or you might be enjoying most of the best part of Asia and Asia Pacific resources. But what I would like to say and request to our young leaders and future leaders, that you must stand up. You must stand up as a great leader. You must stand up as your forefathers stood and created and given us this earth to our hand. You also must prepare and plan to hand over this beautiful earth to your great grandsons and daughters. That's why you must stand up and take that leadership, and then be positive and always move ahead. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister, for sharing with us your views and insights. And thank you very much for ending your keynote with such a positive note. Time is up for this session, and I would like to thank the Minister for all your contributions in enriching this session. Thank you very much. Points articulated by the Minister and the speakers this morning are all very relevant to topics to be addressed in the following sessions today. Although many of us are unable to meet in person for the discussion, I do hope that the sessions will be equally engaging and stimulating to keep the conversation going among all stakeholders. And after all, this event or the initiative is so aptly named Together for Peace, which requires all stakeholders to be engaged. Thank you very much, speakers and Mr. Minister. With that, I'd like to hand it over to you, Mr. Oyagi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Doden, for your very professional moderation, which gave us some kind of the platform for our further discussion and communications. I really, really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much. Well, let's move on to the next session. Many of you now seeing the face of the Dr. Javad Motagi, who is the Secretary General of Asia Pacific Broadcasting Union. The UNESCO Bangkok has been enjoying the very wonderful relationship with the ABU in many senses. And this, especially in particular, this T4P initiative, that we have have established the very, very strong collaboration in many senses. Today, I'd like to invite my friend Javad to launch our new initiative, which is the UNESCO ABU Media Peace Awards in this region. Of course, media has a very powerful role in promoting peace, justice, and sustainability in this region. And then I think this new kind of attempt will give us another kind of flavor in promoting positive peace in this region. Before I hand over my friend Javad, I'd like to just briefly introduce himself. Dr. Javad has been a media champion for many years with 40 years of national and international experience in media communication, media development, ICTs, capacity building, networking, news and programming for radio and television, social and cultural programs. So his vast experience and being the part of the experts group of T4P encouraged us to go for further discussions. Now, I would like to call on my friend Javad to launch our new attempt. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Shigeru-san. Appreciate your partnership and thank you for this opportunity. I'm delighted that UNESCO Bangkok office in partnership with ABU is launching annual Media Peace Award as part of Together for Peace initiative. Thank you for the opportunity to present to your regional dialogue a very brief overview of this pioneering initiative. The ABU UNESCO Media Peace Award will open space for storytelling that inspires and promotes what unites us, not what divides us. We hope to grow the award as a global platform to encourage media professionals to shine the light of publicity on efforts to build bridges and foster understanding and tolerance between individuals, communities, and nations. Here are some information about Media Peace Award in 4 points. Number 1, the Media Peace Award will be launched on 1st of April next month for entries in 3 categories: radio, television, and digital media. Number 2, the eligible entries should be features covering the 3 areas of the Together for Peace initiative. A, transformative education and social and emotional learning. B, humanity's relationship with nature, including coping with climate change and biodiversity loss. And C, living well with superdiversity, fostering human flourishing and intercultural understanding. Number 3, the international jury consists of outstanding media professionals from across the globe, and practitioners in peace building initiatives through media and community will be engaged to select and judge the entries. Number 4, the Media Peace Award in the 3 categories will be presented during the prestigious ABU prizes in Hanoi in November 2021 during the ABU General Assembly this year. I would like to commend UNESCO and Director of Bangkok Office, Mr. Shigeru, personally for initiating Together for Peace movement. We need such inspiring engagement more than ever now. After the devastating pandemic and emerging climate crisis, which is a new source of conflicts and inequality on larger scale. The answer is education, education, education to bring hope for change, justice and equality for all. Without such positive peace, there is no progress, no chance to fulfill the potential of every citizen. Achieving peace is beyond the power of ability of any individual, community, party, or government, no matter how influential they might be. It requires everyone's commitment, everyone's will, and continuous efforts for the sake of future generation. Through these awards, we would like to put the media in service of a noble cause, building peace in the minds and hearts of men and women. The ABU invites all media professionals to visit our websites and submit their entries. And I'm looking forward to the pleasure of working with you all, and in particular with Shigeru-san, to have this inspiring award take it forward. Thank you very much, Shigeru-san.
Well, thank you so much, Jabat. I really welcome your kind of support and collaboration within this T4P initiative. We are trying to create and make the defenses of peace of the minds of people, and for that, the media's role is quite important. And then I really wish the many media people are encouraged by this the newly set the ABU UNESCO Peace the Media Awards. And very much looking forward to working closely with you, Mr. Jabat. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, Sue, please come, and then let's move on to our substantial discussions. Before coming to the next session, on behalf of UNESCO, I'd like to express my sincere appreciation to the Ambassador Nashida, and then Kunnin Kalaya, Deputy Minister, and then my friends, the Kailash Satyarthi and the Jabat, and also, of course, the Honorable Minister of Education in Bhutan, Mr. Lai, who were all supposed to be here in this meeting room as we planned originally, but because of the difficulties, we couldn't make it. So the next year, we are trying to organize another second regional dialogue, T4P dialogue. So I really wish to have in-person meeting and then have more lively discussion and communication with you all, national commissions, Secretary Generals of national commissions, and also the eminent speakers. Well, then next session will be on the introduction of our kind of regional dialogue. The first, I'd like to invite Sue, my colleague Sue, to give you some brief idea on the UNESCO's work in building positive peace. As our DDC, Mr. Chu mentioned, we've been working in this field for a long time. But we did some kind of revisit our program, and then studied to some extent what kind of programs have been contributing to creating the positive peace in this region. So you will have the Secretary Generals and participants very brief snapshots of the UNESCO's program, which have been contributing to building the positive peace in this region, Asia and the Pacific. Sue, are you ready to go? Yes, over to you then, Sue.
Good morning again, everybody.
I'm just going to give you a quick overview because I don't want to repeat everything that you already know, because most of you know a lot about UNESCO's work. You're UNESCO's family and you're part of this work all the time. So a lot of this will be nothing new to you. But we had a consultant who actually tried to look through UNESCO's work over time to summarize what some of the key points would be and identify ways in which we could use this to build on with the experts and with this discussion today. So I'd just like to tell you a little bit about that background work, a little bit about what we do, and some thoughts about maybe where T4P could go. So next slide. So I just wanted to start with a quote from our Director General. Obviously, peace is at the center of everything that UNESCO does, and that what we really want to happen here is this global dialogue, because, and I think the speakers this morning have said it much more eloquently and better than I ever will, that if we aren't having this global conversation, we can't actually address the challenges together. So we want to have this dialogue. We want everybody to be a part of that dialogue. And this will help us to concentrate our efforts on the core mandate of UNESCO, which is very clear. So the consultants' report that we had done started from this point of our core mission being to build peace and sustainable development through the different areas of UNESCO's expertise. And basically that there are two key elements to the way that this work has progressed through time. We started off from the point of working for interstate peace, arising from the atrocities of World War II and the aftermath, and the types of thinking about how to build global peace then, which were very much using the fundamentals of education, sciences, and culture. And then there's been a shift towards protecting education, the right to education, and developing this in a way that's looking at internal actors and non-state actors, and not just looking at this kind of interstate level. So these are the two kind of main periods of UNESCO's work on peace. And the next slide just is a quick timeline that shows some of the key initiatives along the way. So in 1946, we started out with fundamental education and adult education, this being the foundation of building peace. And this has moved through lifelong learning, the establishment of the UNESCO Institute for Education, as it used to be called, the Associated Schools program in the 50s. In 1966, UNESCO commissioned a report on peace thinking, which was a thought piece about how we could strengthen peace. And then this led in the 80s to the culture of peace, the Delors report, strengthening the culture of peace in the 1990s. And then in the current century, we've been looking at a series of different initiatives like education for sustainable development, rapprochement of cultures, etc. And this is the way that the consultants summarized essentially our space for peace that we can have with UNESCO. So thinking about taking the point of this peace thinking piece from the 60s, there's 4 different aspects of peace upon which we could focus: inner peace, peace in society, peace in culture, peace in environment. And in fact, what will come up in some of the groups today, in the breakout groups, obviously you can't do these in isolation. Inner peace needs to be connected with peace in society, needs to be connected with peace and environment, etc. So this is the kind of field that we have to create these environments. And I guess one of the things that we really wanted to think about with this concept is intersectorality and how we strengthen that, because we too do tend to work in those siloed areas of our sectors in particular. So the next slide. So this is our last annual report, and you will all be receiving, this is a hard copy, This has been sent out to you with a T4P package. It should arrive fairly soon. And this actually looks at UNESCO's current work streams and how they are connected to peace. And what we have done is, using the concept of the SDGs and the 5 Ps, we have come up with people, planet, equality, dialogue, and knowledge. And knowledge is sneaked in there twice to make the sides balance. It's not a mistake, it's the same area. And these are some of the things that UNESCO is doing. These cover all sectors. They cover initiatives with government, they cover initiatives with community, research, teaching, capacity building, all of UNESCO's different elements. So I just want to mention a couple that are obviously very relevant, and you can find out more about each of these in here, and of course through the projects themselves. Happy Schools is one that I think you'll probably agree sounds like it should be about peace. And it's an interesting initiative because it's actually looking at the school environment and how we encourage school environments to be a safer and better place for the well-being of young people. So we're not traditionally looking at the content of education with this, we're looking at the well-being of students and how we can make schools a better and a happier place for them. If we take one from another sector, Green Academies similarly is not just looking at teaching about environment, it's actually looking at a school environment which is sustainable, that practices sustainability in terms of water and garbage disposal and all of these things. So the concept is not simply just one or the other. And these would be the types of initiatives that we think have a lot of potential in terms of linking up, creating the intersectorality, and how we can move forward with Together for Peace. Shared Histories is another one I would like to mention. It's focused on Southeast Asia, so some of you from the other sub-regions may not know about it, but this looks at how our cultural connections from the past still connect us to today. These are things that are common to us. An example, one chapter is about rice and spice, and across Asia, this is something that is a common element. People celebrate mealtime, family time with rice. We have rice festivals. Rice is really an important part of life. So this shows that we have something in common, and the idea is that we can build dialogue on these commonalities. I'll just mention also briefly our work on disinformation, fake news, promoting information media literacy. This is a really important area and obviously brings together many of these things. And my own area that I could go on for another 10 minutes, but I won't, particularly looking at the work we do with youth and how we bring youth in to be a part of the dialogue. So next slide. In terms of Together for Peace, these are the elements I wanted to just pull out upon which we have strong foundations from this history, but also we have existing work in these particular areas. I think curriculum and learning resources and teacher training are probably the best known and quite possibly the biggest areas of UNESCO's work. But we also have our sites like geoparks, biosphere reserves, World Heritage Sites. These are actually places for learning as well and promoting peace. We have our youth program, media development, and elements of dialogue are throughout all of these, and the dialogue is maybe an area that we can strengthen. And also T4P, we have been using it to try to strengthen this awareness, particularly of UNESCO's role with peace. Because when you ask people what is UNESCO about, nobody actually says peace. People will say education, people will say culture, a few other people maybe are better informed and will say other things, but nobody really recognizes this. So we have been showing you in the waiting room, and we have other information and awareness products, infographics, the silent manga exhibition, youth videos, and I hope you will stay to see those that actually are trying to promote this image that with the public more to show what UNESCO does. So the last slide is just a few things I pulled out of the experts report in terms of thinking about this dialogue and where we should be taking Together for Peace. The breakout sessions will discuss quite a lot of the content type of recommendations from the experts, but I wanted to also present some of these other recommendations that are thinking about how we could bring this content into play. So some of the recommendations, they may look quite obvious, but build on what we already have, because we have a strong foundation and we have a lot of very relevant work streams. We can utilize UNESCO sites. We have World Heritage sites and they're great places for tourism and finding out about culture, but how can we use them more as learning sites? The same goes with biosphere reserves and other sites. We also have very good networks and partnerships. We have, for example, the UNESCO chairs. This is a lot of academic power behind various things that UNESCO is doing. We have a fantastic media network, as just illustrated by Javad's comments about the work we do with ABU. We have several cities networks which bring together cities for learning or water or fighting discrimination. We have many of these we can use. Stronger partnerships with the media and expanding our use of digital platforms to strengthen outreach. And I think the last year has been a big learning experience for this. We've obviously started to depend more on digital platforms, but this was one particular area that the experts recommended we should invest in more and maybe think about smarter ways to use digital. How can we actually engage more people in the dialogue in a way that continues it on an ongoing basis? So it's not like a meeting dialogue, but it's a longer term working together or partnership. So those are just the thoughts I wanted to leave you with in terms of the dialogue for the rest of today's meeting. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sue, for your brief introduction of the UNESCO's work towards positive peace. Well, dear participants, in the morning's opening session, as well as in keynote, we listened to the eminent speakers' views and insights on how we can contribute to building positive peace in this region. And here in these 2 days, we have the very clear objectives and then the vision for the expected outcome. I'd like to revisit and then come back to our objectives of this meeting, which were already shared with you in the concept note. But let's revisit. Our objective is like this. The regional dialogue will enable UNESCO to develop, and its partner to develop, a focused approach to future initiatives that tackle peace building through education, including number one, identifying existing elements of UNESCO's work through which the positive peace building can be strengthened, upscaled, and expanded. Number two, identifying opportunities for new work streams that strengthen UNESCO's work on building positive peace through education, including opportunities for intersectionality. This is a very important aspect, intersectionality and partnership. Well, many of the speakers mentioned the togetherness, the solidarity among the partners is the very basic element for building peace. And also the peace is not just the created one element. We have to look at the totality of the elements contributing to this. And the intersectionality is one of the answers the UNESCO has now towards these objectives. And number three is agreeing on the way forward to action these opportunities in 2021 and beyond. These are the objectives. And we expect to have, through preparations in the dialogue event, the following outputs will be delivered. Number one, sharing of regional and national cases and good practice for building positive peace. Number two, reflections and understanding of significance of education for positive peace. And finally, and most importantly, the T4P statement, which will be adopted tomorrow's last session. With all the agreement we will gain, we will have from you, the participants from national commissions, which will be the meeting statement on proposed future work of UNESCO and its partners on building positive peace through education and interdisciplinary programs. Some of you have already seen the draft statement, and we will share the latest draft time to time with you for our kind of the final adoption of the statement. And for achieve these objectives and also to have these expected outcomes, we have the procedures. So can you briefly explain what we are going to do in these 2 days?
So we have a system of collecting the notes from the different groups and feeding them into everybody. But starting from the draft statement that was emailed to the national commissions yesterday, we had already sent it out to the drafting group a couple of days before. So if you have, we have 2 ways of collecting the information. The first one will be through today's discussion. For each of the breakout groups and the discussions, we are recording your questions, your comments, and everything else. There'll be a summary of those presented back after the breakout sessions, and you get an opportunity to comment, and that will go to the drafting group who will meet at the end of today. And similarly tomorrow, same thing will happen with the meeting contents. That will go to the drafting group who will be meeting in the session just before the end to finalize the statement. You can also submit comments in writing by emailing them to me, and I will collate those with the drafting group and put them into the comments when we go over it at the 2 sessions of the drafting group. So the drafting group will meet today when we finish the dialogue, and tomorrow just before we finish, and we will consider all of your comments and try to put them in then. Mr. Aoyagi will then present the draft statement to you in the plenary, and you still have another opportunity to make any comments or suggestions at that point. And after that, we hope that it's finalized.
Thank you, Sue. So this is a kind of procedure towards the end of this dialogue. And we expect your insight and views to be incorporated in our final outcome document of the T4P statement. For the drafting group, we have already had the Nandini from the experts group, and also the Professor Sulichai from Thailand. And we would like to also invite a few member states to be part of this drafting committee. I have some kind of the idea of the couple of countries to be here today with us. May I invite the Republic of Korea, National Commission for UNESCO, if you are there? Can you put on your mic and video if you do? Colleagues from National Commission for UNESCO of Republic of Korea.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Very well, very
yes,
clear.
Yes, yeah. I'm so sorry. Our Assistant Secretary General is not at the moment, so
Okay, so then you can come back with us. Hopefully,
yes.
a positive answer to be part of the drafting committee. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
And may I talk to the colleague from the Bhutan National Commission for UNESCO?
Hello.
Hello. Hello, Bida.
Hello, Mr. Aoyagi. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you. I would like to propose the Bhutan National Commission for UNESCO to be the part of the very important drafting committee.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for your acceptance. And lastly, I'd like to communicate with the Cook Island National Commission for UNESCO, if you are there.
Kia ora. Hello, colleagues. How are you?
Hi. Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
Very well.
Okay. All right. Yeah, happy to accept. I'm more than happy to be on the drafting committee. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, so that we have the very good composition of the drafting committee now. So let's move on to the next agenda item, which is the very substantial discussion and sharing on the good practice for positive peace. We will listen the views and insight, the good practice from the 4 national commissions. And for the moderator, my colleague, Mr. Eric Ford, Director of UNESCO New Delhi office, will be with you. Eric, over to you.
Thank you very much, Shigeru, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you today. I actually see many familiar names in the list of participants, people I haven't seen in a long time, and I hope it won't be too long before we're all reunited in person. I'm joining you from India, where we have just celebrated, I have to say with great moderation, Holi, the festival of Holi. But anyway, let's get right to business, and the subject of this first plenary session focusing on why and how national commissions can promote positive peace. All of our countries in the Asia and the Pacific region, I think it's fair to say, have made a very significant progress with education reform through EFA and the Sustainable Development Goals, and many have been active in developing education for sustainable development, global citizenship education, and many other programs to promote peace and sustainable development. At the same time, for the past year, we have all been struggling with COVID-19, which is itself a critical issue to address if peace is to be achieved, and more equitable and just societies being, of course, our goal. So the task today is to identify how UNESCO can work with all of you to strengthen peace and sustainable development in our future programs of action. What are the key issues we should address? What are the good examples of what has been happening? How can we learn and upscale from this? And here we're going to look at examples from different member states, each obviously with different geographical, social, and cultural profiles. And we'll see some of the good practices developed at the national level. The panelists with us today are Professor Arif Rahman, Secretary General of the National Commission for UNESCO of the Republic of Indonesia. It's a great pleasure to see you again today. We have Mrs. Dudbayeva Anar, Secretary General of the National Commission for UNESCO of the Republic of Kazakhstan. Ms. Uyanga Subatar, Secretary General of the Mongolian National Commission for UNESCO. And we were very much hoping to connect with our friend Lucy Moala Mafi in Tonga, but I think there's a lot of difficulties in the connection. So I will give the floor, without further ado, to Professor Rahman.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eric Fald. I am Arif Rahman from the National Commission of Indonesia to UNESCO. Would like to welcome all of you, and I wish you good health. Now, my presentation is about National Commission for UNESCO promoting positive peace education. Now, as we know, and I hope you can put my material on the screen so that everybody can read. And I hope you have my material. I have sent this material to all of you. not to take time. The preamble of UNESCO Constitution stated that since wars begin in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that the defense of peace must be constructed. And in SDG 4, to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all. Quality education is intended to empower students with their potential, namely spiritual, physical, intellectual, emotional, and social potential. And this five potential in Indonesia, in principle, it is our duty to collaborate with the related ministries and institutions, especially on education, in order to make sure the presence of harmony within oneself and within the environment can be felt by teachers, students, and all educational personnel. In Indonesia, we have the motto Merdeka Belajar. This is to reform the national education. Merdeka Belajar is emancipated learning, is to freedom of learning, was declared as a national policy to reform the Indonesian education system. The essence of Merdeka Belajar is to explore the greatest potential of teachers and students to innovate and improve the quality of learning independently. Independent is not only following the bureaucratic process of education, but is truly an educational innovation while promoting peace education. And the basic, through strengthening the character education that rooted in the national ideologies in Indonesia called Pancasila, the five principles of the philosophy of Indonesia. It's called the unity in diversity. And the character education are integrated of the learning process in the classroom through developing curriculum content in any subjects, both thematic and integrated and all the school activities should have values and promote the potential also to take care of the environment and also the society as a source of learning, such as the existence and support of art and culture activities, community leaders and the business world, the individual world, local government and central government and many others. Pancasila, our philosophy, the five principles, number one is believe in the Almighty God. And number two, just and civilized humanity. That's it. Yes, thank you very much. And number three, the unity of Indonesia. Number four, democracy guided by the inner wisdom in the to arise in the deliberation among representatives. And number five, social justice for the whole of the people of Indonesia. This ideology and philosophy, Pancasila, and also Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, unity in diversity. As you know, that Indonesia has about 51 million students and 2.7 million teachers, is the basic intercultural to build peace and harmony, not only for Indonesian, but also for the whole humanity in the whole world. That is why UNESCO is very important. Therefore, in principle, the implementation of the program by the National Commission for UNESCO in Indonesia is in line with the nation's goals based on this ideology. Next. And the character of the axis of education, if you could see, we have the profile of Indonesian students with Pancasila philosophy, respect global diversity, live in harmony with others by helping each other, creativity, critical reasoning, self-reliance, belief in God, and practicing religious and moral value. Refer to the profiles, it shows that Indonesian students are implementing 4 pillars of education for the 21st century, namely learning to know, learning to do, learning to be, and learning to live together. Next, Indonesian National Commission for UNESCO in promoting peace and education, we have number one, the program of human rights education, teaching respect for all. And number two, I Earn program. In Indonesia, there are several I Earn projects that has been implemented, namely health, environment, food security, civic education, peace education, literacy and education and social entrepreneurship, and ethics in education, Arigato International, promoting the learning to live together by developing 4 basic attitudes such as responsibility of mutual respect, showing empathy, and reconcile when a conflict occurs. And the last one is Generation Global of Tony Blair Institute. Teach teachers on universal value based on principle of respect, and also encouraging to be able to accept differences and diversity through dialogue in increasing tolerant society. So the building of peace, next, dismantling a culture of war, living with justice and compassion, promoting human rights responsibility, and building intercultural respect, reconciliation, and solidarity. And number 5, living in harmony with the earth. And number 6, cultivating inner peace. Thank you very much for your attention, and also thank you for giving the National Commission of UNESCO in Indonesia to give a little bit of our material. Thank you very much, Eric, and I wish you all good health. The corona is spreading, but I think with this we all will have the strength to face all challenges, including corona. We will have to build our society in the world to be strong and healthy. Thank you very much again, Eric. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Professor Rahman. It's always a pleasure to see you. Next, we have Mrs. Dudbayeva Anar, who is Secretary General of the National Commission for UNESCO of the Republic of Kazakhstan.
Thank you, Eric. Hello, everyone. Do you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So, dear colleagues and participants of today's meeting, I'm very happy to be here with you and to greet you on behalf of the National Commission of the Republic of Kazakhstan for UNESCO and SESCO. We all agree that education nowadays is one of the most powerful tools that we can implement in our global efforts to promote world peace. As Confucius said, education breeds confidence. Confidence breeds hope. Hope breeds peace. The Human Rights Convention declares that education must prepare a child for a responsible life in an effective participation in a free society in a spirit of understanding, peace, tolerance, equality of sexes, and friendship among people, ethnic, national, and religious groups. Kazakhstan, in this context, can be considered as a positive example with its policy of cultural and ethnic diversity. According to the UNESCO World Report on Education 2020, the educational system of Kazakhstan reflects its rich diversity from the ethnic and religious point of view. Here in country, we have languages of 22 ethnic groups have been taught in a separate subject, as a separate subject in many schools. Also, there have been opened numerous specialized linguistic centers, which are not only for children, but also for adults, where we can learn languages, traditions, and cultures of more than 30 ethnic groups. The acceptance of multiculturalism in the school's curriculum is ongoing in the country. Within our National Commission for UNESCO, education for peace and sustainable development is mainly implemented through the projects and initiatives of the UNESCO Associated Schools Network, as well as the Kazakhstan National Federation of UNESCO Clubs. With that being said, I would like to pass the floor to my colleague, Sabina Akhzharova, who will introduce you with the concrete ongoing projects of the Kazakhstan National Federation of UNESCO Clubs aimed at building positive peace. Thank you for your information, and the floor to Sabina.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Dear Mr. Falt, dear ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Tsartaeva, Mrs. Dudbaeva. First of all, on behalf of Kazakhstan National Federation of UNESCO Clubs, let me express our sincere gratitude to the organizers of the Together for Peace Regional Dialogue and to the National Commission of the Republic of Kazakhstan for UNESCO and SESCO for an opportunity to share our experience and learn a lot from the speakers of such an important event. Kazakhstan National Federation of UNESCO Clubs, being a member of the World Movement, born in 1947 in Japan, was founded in April 2009. It carries out an important and extensive work to promote the UNESCO ideals and values through the support and development of Kazakhstani young generation. It is also necessary to point out that due to the wide and comprehensive support of Kazakhstan National Commission, today there are 162 UNESCO clubs represented in all 14 regions of the country, with a total number of 14,000 members. During the last 10 years of active work from one club for UNESCO, our federation became a serious player of the world movement. Thus, since 2009 and 2010, we are members of the Asian Pacific and World Federation. In 2015, Kazakhstan was elected as a member of the Executive Board of the World Federation. And in 2016, we chaired the Asian Pacific Federation of Clubs and Associations for UNESCO. The organization implements significant youth programs in three major areas of UNESCO activities: creative and scientific education, cultural heritage, and sustainable development. Turning into today's meeting agenda and sharing good practices for positive peace, we would like to present some key activities of our organization. In 2019, and thanks to their support of UNESCO, via participation program mechanism, we organized the International Capacity Building Seminar, Asian UNESCO Clubs for Global Citizenship Education. The 2 days event gathered more than 200 participants from the regional network, representatives of government, academic and private sector, as well as outstanding youth leaders. The main aim of the event was to mainstream the GCED among civil society at the grassroots level and empower a more peaceful, tolerant, inclusive, secure and sustainable community. Besides the key outcomes that are shown on your screens, for us, the most important thing is that each of our clubs around the country incorporated GCED components to their daily life, which came to the almost 2,000 activities within these 2 years. Another very important initiative is the International Festival, The Planet of Art. This project has 20 years history. Started in 1999 as an art competition, the festival has expanded its frame several times, from the local national event to the sub-regional, then regional and international art festival. Today, the Planet of Art alternates its visual and musical cycles, uniting every year talented kids and youth all over the world. This project joined together more than 38,500 gifted children from 35 countries who expressed their vision of the peaceful world through art and demonstrated their talents through music. Taking into consideration that today's world has been rapidly changing and the current pandemic made a huge amendments to our plans from one side, but it also opened new opportunities from the other side. In this regard, seeking for new online format of activities, in May-August 2021, in cooperation with our NetCom, we are planning to organize the International Dialogue Forum, Youth Leading for Peace, which will be dedicated to the 30th anniversary of the closure of the Semipalatinsk nuclear test site and International Day Against Nuclear Tests. The main aim of the project is to empower young people for a peace dialogue, fostering a culture of peace and understanding the value of unity, harmony, and mutual respect through participation in the relay race. Program of the forum will include public screening of thematic films, discussions, Instagram challenge, and art contests. Considering the importance of this event in the light of celebration of the 30th anniversary of the Republic of Kazakhstan independence, we are happy to invite all interested parties for collaboration and look forward to an active participation of youth from your countries. Finalizing our presentation, we would like to stress out that Kazakhstan National Federation of Clubs for UNESCO operates in line with the key international programs such as the United Nations Sustainable Development Agenda, UNESCO's Operational Strategy for Youth, International Decade for the Repertoire of Cultures, and many others. Welcome to our social media networks and be with us for creating a better future. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sabina. And now I will give the floor to Ms. Uyanga Sukbatar, Secretary General of the Mongolian National Commission for UNESCO. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Eric. Good to see you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm trying to share my slides. Oops. Okay. First of all, I'm very glad to share with you the Mongolia's experience on peace education. First of all, we understand the peace as a concept that the people of the country, region, and the world are free from worries, living in harmony together, healthier, safe, and peaceful. For realizing that education is the most important pillar for the well-being. This is the long-term tradition in Mongolia, which has recognized Mongolia is a country with many years of historical experience and established traditions in the field of peace through education. For example, on the 1st of September each year, the school begins with the first lesson of the new academic year with a nationwide lesson on peace. Education is the driving force of development, the foundation for a peaceful life, and the main means of reducing poverty. Improving the accessibility and quality of education is the most important step to ensure the well-being of families around the world. In today's globalized world, education is one of the major tools for the development and peace. Today, issues of peace become dramatically increased. New challenges in education and social sectors are beginning to take place. For example, in education sector, children's rights to education and development is being violated due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the quarantine measures as well. This is especially severe in case of first and second grades, as well as the 11th and 12th grades of secondary education. In addition, number of domestic violence cases has increased significantly and became serious threat to a child's safety and well-being. Many children in remote rural areas don't have equal access to e-learning and televised learning, resulting in significant challenges and lacks. Unemployment and poverty issues are rising in the social sector, and in some cases, discrimination and human rights violations are continuing. Of course, we have some response and countermeasures for that. And the government of Mongolia is implementing response measures to the COVID-19 pandemic, and with the purpose of reducing public anger, stress, unemployment, poverty, and conflict. These measures include in education sector, for example, teleclasses are regularly organized and additional online lessons are organized for schools and teachers. Today, classroom training in the non-infected areas were partially opened as of March 1. In the social sector, State Emergency Commission has implemented a number of plans moving from wide-range lockdowns to regional limitations, which has eased restrictions significantly. Electricity, heat, and water consumption payments for all consumers are exempted until July of this year upon the decision of the government. The provision of hay and fodder have been carried out for herders. The vaccination campaign has already been launched at the capital and district levels. And recently, with the support of UNESCO and other international organizations, projects and programs to raise awareness about education for sustainable development have been implemented under the framework of the SDG 2030. This is another form of promoting peace through education for sustainable development. The programs include promoting community-based education for sustainable development implemented in 2018 to 2020 with the support of UNESCO Bangkok office. Also, the world's largest lesson campaign, which promotes 17 SDGs, was organized by our commission together with the UN agencies in Mongolia, was organized. And the Education for Sustainable Development project is phase 2 and 2, which have been implemented since 2015 with the support of the government of Mongolia and the government of Switzerland. Although our country has a traditional view of promoting peace through education, there is a lack of detailed research conducted in this phase. Recently, Korean Category 2 Center, APSU, started this study to explore the current situation on peace education in Northeast Asia and hope that the outcome brings the details on the field. Furthermore, our recent studies identified introducing the concept of ESD to students and general public is the foundation for promoting peace education. We thought further to develop in the field for the future is that it's necessary to conduct detailed studies in the field of education in order to research the current situation and understand and identify the challenges we have and develop further actions while considering the ESD roadmap 2030 and the national programs for ESD, the other policy documents. And also it needs to bring the collaborative action by creating cooperation mechanism, including all the stakeholders at national level and regional and world level. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this presentation. As I said at the beginning, we were hoping to have Lucy from Tonga, but I don't see her name, so I don't think she's been able to resolve the connectivity issue that she has. So we have a little bit of time for a discussion and exchanges. So please let us know if you have questions or comments. I'm sure many of you have been inspired by presentations from Indonesia, Kazakhstan, and Mongolia. So perhaps you would like to say a few words on this. Who would like to be the first one? Professor Rahman, I see your hand being raised. We cannot hear you. Please unmute.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's good now.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the presentation from Kazakhstan and Mongolia. I just would like to ask, especially for Kazakhstan as well as Mongolia, as I know that the population of Kazakhstan and Mongolia is very diverse as well, and you live also in a very difficult natural condition. The nature is not flat, you know. In Indonesia we have islands, but we are able to have connection between all the islands. But perhaps we would like to learn from Kazakhstan and Mongolia, how do you unite all the principles for the population in Kazakhstan and Mongolia? I would like to give the opportunity for Kazakhstan first, probably, and then after that, Mongolia. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. So I'd like to say that in Kazakhstan, we have very ethnic, as you have said, population, and this is historically and traditionally. It's in our policy, unity in diversity, also in the policy of Kazakhstan on the national level. So we have Assembly of People of Kazakhstan, which was implemented in the beginning of the years of our national independence. And within this assembly, the practices and the policies of our country is been run up to speak about the ethnic diversity and ethnic unity.
Thank you.
So this is the main political institution. And the representatives of this institution, they also work in parliament, being elected as a parliament members, and they promote this policy in all the levels.
Thank you, Mariette. Thank you very much.
I think you wanted a reaction from Mongolia as well.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Arif. Thank you for the question. And I think that we have in Mongolia a very unique situation, environmentally, socially, very unique one. So while we consider and implementing the SDG goals, especially SDG 4, we need to carefully organize the regional and local context, and we need to consider the children of herders' family, which integrate the education. So in a very hardest winter, it's very difficult for the children of herders' family to integrate into education and got their learning, especially in the pandemic. It becomes more severe situation we have when we could not reach the families and the herders' children to deliver the education and the other provisions as well. So we need to consider very unique context of the country while exploring the other countries' situation as well. It's very unique situation in Mongolia. The government and the Ministry of Education is well considered the situation, and also we need to mobilize the international resources as well as using our internal resources to reach those children and families in a very unique situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to come in the conversation? We have at least another 10 minutes. I see a question from Nandini. Are there any thoughts from any of the national commissions on how we might assess impact of these initiatives, say reduce school dropout, reduced reports of bullying, and so on? Thank you, Nandini, for the question. Who would like to answer that question? It relates to impact. How do we assess? How do we measure impact of your initiatives? Is this something that you do? Anyone from the three national commissions would like to answer this? Professor Rahman, yes?
Yes. It is true. In reality, we have a problem of dropout students, and we have programmed how to reduce the dropout students. And it is true, it's not very easy, especially as it is mentioned also by the previous speakers, that children and family during the pandemic facing a health problem. Now, I like to share with all my colleague friends how do we reduce dropout. So, from time to time, Indonesia has an evaluation for the education. So, the evaluation will produce a kind of metrics or a picture that that some students in the elementary or junior high or senior high school, as well as university, are facing challenge to be dropped out from the educational program. So what we do now is to make evaluation, and then for those students under the average mark, we gave an improvement program and also enrichment program. So in that case, when the examination come, when the evaluation come, they will probably pass the examination. Thank you very much, Eric, for the opportunity.
And who else would like to answer? The question is on impact. Yes?
May I, Eric?
Yes, please, please.
Yeah. Thank you for the
see you.
question from Nandini. It's a really difficult situation we got into while schools are closed, and when reopened, we need to consider the dropout students as well. I would like to say that we have a certain assessments impacts on families and children during the pandemic. So when schools are reopened and the children are come back to school, we need to bring all children to normality, but still we could not open this school almost 1.5 years. So we are just delivering the online lessons. When you are delivering online lessons, and mostly we are using tele-lessons to children. Of course, there are retardation of education and learning, and dropouts of students are very severe situation. So we are still, the Ministry of Education is still mitigating these challenges, and producing guidelines how to bring all children to come back to the online learning, but still we have gaps, and the situation is very difficult, like we all know facing these challenges. And we think that the challenges might not disappear in quickly, so we need the resilience and of course actions to take against this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have another question coming, and please send them on the thread. The question is from Wataru Iwamoto. It's a question to all three NatComs. How does your country integrate culture in education for promotion of peace? Culture in education. Who would like to be the first one to answer? And perhaps we can go to Kazakhstan if they're with us. Kazakhstan is not.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, please. And then we'll go to Professor Rahman right after.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I would like to say that in Kazakhstan, in our schools, as I have already mentioned, we have representatives of many ethnic groups and traditions and cultures. And we have the Unity Day, which is the 1st of March, and the Day of Thanksgiving as well, and the Nowruz traditions. And during these holidays, all schools, they organize kind of unity day where all the representatives of different ethnic groups and nationalities can represent their traditions, culture, they make performances and commemorate these commemorate this with these gatherings. So and we have also this culture education in curriculum program, but as I don't work for the Ministry of Education, I cannot give you a prompt answer to these questions. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you. No, that's perfectly fine. Professor Rahman, you wanted the floor? Yes. Please unmute. We cannot hear you. If you can please unmute. Otherwise, okay, well, let's go first to Uyanga Sugbatar and then we'll okay, Professor Rahman, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. It is true that education for culture is very important. The most important part is the interpretation what culture is. A lot of people think that culture is music, art, and dances, and all those has got something to do with art and music and dances. But actually, culture, what is very important in culture is the understanding of moral value. And this understanding of moral value started from the family. So we, in the Ministry of Education and Culture, education should nurture the culture, and culture should also nurture the education. These two things, education and culture, cannot be separated. It's one, and that will produce the best value of human being. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, Uyanga Sugbatar, you wanted the floor?
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Iwamoto, for the question. In this case, we use intersectoral approach, which is combining UNESCO's education and culture sector. Our ultimate goal is to bring culture to formal, non-formal, and informal education. For the last couple of years, we are implementing the project Heritage in a Box, which brings together these two UNESCO sectors and to develop comprehensive tools for educators and for the children to understand more about the culture. And we would like to bring this project to the nationwide level. It was started first at the UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it becomes expanded to other sites. And we would like to bring this project at national level, and also we would like to go with the curriculum at first, secondary education, and then of course it's non-formal education. It's already taken in implementation. So we understand that culture is the integral part of promoting peace education. So we through this Heritage in a Box project, we would like to bring the importance of culture to education. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know if there are any other questions coming. We're very close to the end of our session. I don't know if there is one representative of a National Commission who's maybe not speaking during the various sessions, who would like to give an example of how they promote positive peace. Do we have anybody who would like to give one more example? Okay, I don't see any, so I will give the floor to Professor Akman for his last intervention.
Thank you very much, Eric. I just would like to stress and emphasize the promoting positive peace education. In our country as well as around the world, education seems to be giving all the subjects that is not related. I mean, the teachers are not yet well equipped to relate all the subjects with peace. And I believe that the higher the quality of education is, it means also the better of peace that we can have around the world. And I like to appreciate UNESCO, especially that UNESCO will always take care of peace. Since wars begins in the minds of man, it is in the minds of man that the defenses of peace must be constructed. So again, thank you very much, and congratulations to everybody, and especially to you, Eric Fall. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much for these very wise words. And I would like to thank all three participants and countries, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, and Mongolia, for participating in this session. And I conclude here, and back to you, Shigeru, in Bangkok.
All right. Thank you so much, three speakers, Professor Lakman and Mrs. Anal, and also the Mrs. Subatal, for your very interesting argument. And thank you, Eric, for coordinating all the discussions very in time. Thank you so much. And also I saw the familiar name of the questions. Who raised the questions, Mr. Iwamoto and also Nandini. Thank you very much for your very relevant questions.
This ends today's public broadcast. We hope you've enjoyed finding out a little bit more about why positive peace is important to us and why we think education is a key tool in promoting positive peace. Further information about the T4P initiative can be found on UNESCO Bangkok's website, where you will find materials on UNESCO's current work and how it contributes to peace, the Together for Peace Silent Mungra audition, and videos showing the work of UNESCO's Youth Partners for Peace. Thank you.